New York Mets have officially wrapped up their first 9 games of the regular season, going 6-3. We are going to recap some of the action, go over some of the individual and team statistics, and take a little bit of a look ahead. Let's get into it. All right, Mets fans, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you all being here on the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP, and we are taking a little bit of a quick step back and assessing the first 9 games of the regular season thus far after the sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays in the very first home opening series of this 2025 regular season. Before we fully get into it, please do smash those thumbs up buttons. Subscribe to the channel for more Mets streams, pregame, postgame, and videos just like this one right here across the entire 2025 season. I got you all covered. And as always, drop your thoughts and comments down below in terms of how you assess the first 9 games. What do you like? What do you not like about the New York Mets? And let's have a discussion. All right, just quickly getting into it. This is essentially the outlook for the New York Mets in terms of hitting and pitching leaders, the actual standings of it all in terms of the NL East, and your MLB team stat leaders as well. And we'll talk about the Mets elite bullpen as well on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. The Phillies are off to a great start, 7-2 record. They just took a series against the Dodgers, who came into Philly riding high with an undefeated record, and the Phillies took care of business at home. The Mets are second, 1 game back of the Phillies, improving to 6-3 on the season. Miami, Washington, and lowly Atlanta over there with a 1-8 record down below, 6 games back through the first 9 games. Now, obviously, the division is far from over. We've seen this countless of times throughout Mets history, especially back in 2022, most notably as of recent. It's April, early April at that. The weather hasn't even started to fully warm up yet, as we're going to talk about with the bats here in just a second. Um, and this is something where this is going to be a continuous process in terms of looking at the NL East, because it's going to be a tight race, right? The Phillies and the Mets are going to be neck and neck, I would assume, for most of the season. And I think the Atlanta Braves, once they get fully healthy, once they find out how to hit, right, in certain situations, because their situational hitting, just like the Mets for the first 9 games, hasn't really been great. I think they will slowly start to enter the picture as well, and you'll see more so the Marlins and the Nationals fall off, although I'm not going to discredit either of those teams, as we just saw the Marlins put up a good fight against the New York Mets in the second series of this regular season for the Mets down in Miami. But we have to talk about the hitting aspect, especially with Pete Alonso, as he leads the New York Mets lineup in every single offensive category here early on into the season. And if you haven't heard already, as per multiple beat reporters over on X, Vlad Guerrero Jr. just signed a 14-year extension worth $500 million even flat to remain with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, that was going to be a very highly anticipated free agent in this next offseason. A lot of Mets fans were kind of looking forward to him hitting the open market. And I'm kind of shocked that this deal got done in the regular season, because that went against everything that Vlad Guerrero Jr., kind of told the media, and how it would play out after that deadline that he imposed. But you can't leave $500 million on the table, and he accepts that offer ultimately, and he is going to be a Blue Jay for life. And that changes the ball game in terms of the New York Mets approach at first base. Now, we all know we have prospects coming up, especially one by the name of Ryan Clifford, a power hitting lefty. But Pete Alonso's off to a fantastic start and another contract season. He's hitting 290. He leads the Mets in home runs with 3. He's getting on base at a very high clip, because not only is he getting base hits and home runs, he is also drawing walks and laying off that down and out slider, the down and out off speed pitches that was his kryptonite last year. And he's got a 421 on base percentage. And he also has the most RBIs in the team. And really, offensively, the Mets would not be where they're at right now without him hitting the way that he is, right? I know Juan Soto had a great opening series, but he's kind of fizzled off just a little bit. Francisco Lindor, off to a little bit of a slow start, is slowly starting to put together more competitive at-bats. As we mentioned in the postgame, if you missed the postgame following the series finale yesterday against the Blue Jays, make sure to tune into that. I will link the video to that stream in the description down below, so make sure to go tune into that after you watch this video. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the Mets lineup, the bottom of the order, has been pretty bad. You're talking about Jose Siri. You're talking about Brett Beatty specifically. Not really much production there in that tandem at second base. Jesse Winker kind of won the Mets the ball game, or at least kept them in the ball game in that second game in the Blue Jays series as well. So it was good to see that individual performance. But you haven't really seen the Mets lineup hitting their full stride, and that's especially due to Mark Vientos and his struggles moving from the 4-5 spot down to the 6 spot at the discretion of Carlos Mendoza. So there's a lot left to be desired about the way that this offense has been swinging the bats. But as I just mentioned when I went over the standings, the weather hasn't even warmed up yet. There's a lot of hard hit baseballs, especially from Brandon Nimmo. I know Mark Vientos has had a couple so far this season as well that have just been right at, the fielders. And in different conditions, some of those balls carry out of the ballpark. Some of them hit the gaps and some of them hit the open outfield for base hits, and that just simply hasn't materialized for pretty much anybody outside of Pete Alonso consistently. Now, the pitching is completely different than the offensive outlook, right? I do think that the offense is going to turn it around, and I think that you're going to start to see them creep back into being leaders in the MLB in terms of top 10, because they're not top 10 or even top 15 at this point in any single offensive category the last time I checked after that last Blue Jays game. So that's something that the only way to go for this offense is really up from here, given the struggles. And it's kind of a miracle, given the offensive struggles that they're 6-3, but that's largely due to how good this pitching has been. And you see the individual Mets pitching leaders down below. Wins. Tyler McGill is off to a very hot start. He is leading in wins. In his first 2 appearances, he has 2 wins under his belt, and he has a fantastic ERA at 0.87. He is inducing a lot of weak contact, and that shows in the offensive batting average against Tyler McGill is only at, I think, 143 or something of that nature. Kranick is up there. I know McGill's up there. Brazibound's up there. And we'll talk about the bullpen here in just a second. But Tyler McGill, through his first 2 times around the rotation, was a very big question mark to start this season. I had my doubts. I'm not going to say that I didn't, right? And I was a little bit wary of him winning that rotation role. Well, he has shut everybody up through the first 2 times through. And we're just hoping for some consistency, because that really has been the problem in his career, is the consistency of it all when you get into the later months of the season. David Peterson as well. Good to hear from Carlos Mendoza that, that series finale game against the Blue Jays, there was nothing physically wrong with him. He just felt a little bit nauseous, which ended his outing a little bit early. He leads the Mets in strikeouts, and the Mets, in terms of total team strikeouts, are tied for 13th with 84, which is pretty good. And you see the actual pitching of it all. First in the league in team ERA, first in the league in bullpen ERA. This team would not be 6-3, objectively speaking, without the bullpen and the starting rotation doing what they're doing. And also, the bullpen has to be talked about because they have been elite. They haven't just been the best bullpen in the league, thus far. They have overcompensated for some shorter outings from David Peterson, especially yesterday in that victory over the Toronto Blue Jays, and also some of the early Clay Holmes starts. When these starters don't get into the 5th inning and you have to have, a long relief guy like Huascar Braziban giving you multiple scoreless innings, that's something that you can call overcompensation for other areas of this team that is currently lacking, and the bullpen is holding it down until those other areas of this team figure it out. And you see the individual numbers from Edwin Diaz all the way down to Jose Butto. I left off Danny Young from this graphic for obvious reasons. I don't think he's going to be a New York Met for too much longer, especially because you're talking about a bullpen that doesn't even have Daniel Nunez yet, which is, shocking enough. He was a huge part of this bullpen when he came up last season, made an immediate impact, but the rest of the guys are holding it down. And the one thing that I want to point out, obviously, shout out to Reed Garrett, who's been phenomenal. The most holds, I guess, for the New York Mets this season so far, which is defined as when you're up and holding it down, posting zeros to hand it off to the closer or the next reliever. So that's Reed Garrett. He leads the team with 3 holds. But, the individual statistics, Max Kranick with 7 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, no earned runs. Braziban, 7 1/3 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs. A lot of strikeouts on the board, which contribute to the total team Ks. But the one thing that I want to talk about here is that when you take a look at these numbers, clearly AJ Minter sitting at 3.2 innings, and Ryan Stanek, not really getting that much burn so far at 1 1/3 innings pitched. It's amazing that the Mets have been able to do what they've done in terms of the production outlook in the bullpen, while some of these guys like Daniel Nunez are out, like I just mentioned, and also the bigger names in Ryan Stanek, who was a key re-signing this offseason, and AJ Minter, which was, the flashy signing for the Mets bullpen, aren't really getting that many opportunities, especially with Stanek over there, which kind of shocked me a little bit. I do expect Carlos Mendoza to go with Ryan Stanek a little bit more. Right now, while I'm making this video, I don't really have any reason as to why he hasn't been pitching more innings thus far, but it's good because you're using a lot of the other guys, especially in a long relief type of role. Jose Buto's over 5 innings on this season as well. And you're kind of saving, I guess, Ryan Stanek in some of those innings for the crucial ball games and the crucial situations when the 7th or 8th inning rolls around, or maybe when Edwin Diaz needs a day off pitching back-to-back games in the Jays series tonight against the Marlins. Maybe you'll see Ryan Stanek, if the Mets have the lead, close out the ball game. So I'm thoroughly impressed. Yes, there's a lot of, different areas of this team. As I switch back to this view right here, there's a lot of different areas of this team that can definitely improve in terms of longevity of the outings, the types of at-bats, the situational hitting from the offensive side. But I'm very proud of this team nonetheless. And I think that given some of the hardships with the injury concerns in spring training and maybe some of the lack of production offensively speaking, I'm very proud of this pitching staff, the rotation, and the bullpen for holding things down in the first 3 series of this season, while everyone had their doubts and was sort of panicking about the Mets not really having a true ace. Now, things change, situations change, and I think that it's going to change for the better, especially as the Mets get more health with Manaea and Montas coming back, hopefully soon within the next month or so. But also at the deadline, when we fast forward to the deadline, I know that we're many months away from that, and it seems like an eternity until we get there, but it's going to get here quicker than people realize, and we'll see exactly what the Mets' plans are in terms of making that move. Are there certain prospects that are going to be up for grabs and, the Mets are going to be open to trade? And by the Mets, I mean David Stearns is going to be open to trade, or is he going to keep with the same strategy and hope for the best in the second half, and hopefully this pitching doesn't fizzle out? That's something that we'll talk about during the deadline. But as we are recapping the first 3 series of this game, or the season, excuse me, there is a lot of positive things to talk about. And I think that more Mets fans should kind of breathe a sigh of relief, because up until this point, David Stearns has shown that the guys that he has entrusted in these roles, both in the bullpen and the rotation, are definitely up to the task. Now, 9-game sample size, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. I don't want to sound like there isn't, but it's refreshing to see at the very minimum, especially when we've been having some of the exhaustive conversations about the pitching leading up to opening day. Now, this is the future outlook for the New York Mets in terms of the schedule. 9 games ahead, 3 series. The homestand ends in this series against the Marlins, a 3-game set, kicking off Kodai Senga versus the Marlins, who have an undecided pitcher because Sandy Alcantara is going on the paternity list. We'll see who they throw for the opening series. Make sure to tune in to the pregame and the postgame stream. Then the Mets are heading off to Sacramento to face the A's for a 3-game set. And then after that, they are traveling to the Twin City to face the Minnesota Twins in a 3-game set up north over there before they come back home and kick off another home series against the St. Louis Cardinals. So, like I said, Mets fans, a lot of positives to be had and to be talked about with our beloved New York Mets. Some areas of improvement for sure. I'm not going to say that this team has been perfect, because they simply haven't been, but as the offense gets rolling, if the pitching is able to even keep up a fraction of the production that they've been keeping up so far in the first 9 games, this team's going to win a lot of ball games. It's your boy CP. This is the True Mets Talk podcast. Please do subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and let me know your thoughts and opinions on this team down below. I appreciate it. Until next stream, pregame and postgame today, if there's no rain out. Peace.